I see them and
but
hear
didn't
these
have
women
any
and their
medical
children
history
through meeting them and reading stories, reading their little words.
at an early age.
And
And all
all
the
the
trends
dreams
there with
already
him
written
was
to
include
include
good
babies
looks.
I was travelling to a place called Human Beings
So
were written
me
on the road.
and Kevin set out.
Ghosts. Past the big white building where Our Lady looked down on us. Around the corner, and there stood Maireann. I left myself on the doorstep and was taken inside. Down a corridor and past a sitting room. The only sound I could hear was the clicking of knitting needles. An older woman was dusting the ledges. She did this all the quicker when she saw Sister coming. A retreat for pregnant girls, or unmarried mothers as we were called then, is what I thought I was going to. We'd been on one 2 hours from school, and we were warmly welcomed and treated like special visitors by the monks. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. Shown to my cubicle, I found a girl's name scratched on the partition behind the pillow. Annie was here, it said. That's all, no date. She haunted me later, this Annie, her and the others. I saw them round the corners in the laundry where we lifted the sheets. In the chapel every morning where the ancient nuns looked around at the fallen girls with big bellies sat at the back, away from everyone else, as if the stench of our shame was in some way contagious. At first, the other women and children, for there were pregnant children there too, looked at me with suspicion and indifference. It took a while for them to talk to me. Their expressions would have cut cold steel, protecting themselves. But behind their armour were some of the strongest people I've met, in a place where they or I should never have been. Between us older girls, we formed friendships, whispered of better times, promises made, the opening of confidences, telling of our exploits, sexual exploits. You did it where? Guess where we did it. Our bravado hid our fear. The younger girls were frightened, trusted no one, so stayed apart, silent and isolated. The one did confide in me that she hadn't known what was happening when the local lad who offered to walk her home had pushed her into a ditch and ripped her tights off. Afterwards, he left her to walk alone along a dark country lane, her clothes all muck and her in shock. She told no one. She hadn't even kissed a boy before. Months later, her mother took her to the GP where her father and the priest were sent for, and the 3 men discussed what was to be done, while herself and her mother, who wasn't consulted, sat numb in the waiting room. She was taken straight to Maireann, where she was told by the men that she could come home when the baby was taken for adoption. They would tell neighbours that she was visiting an aunt in England and she would be allowed to get on with her life. She was 15 years of age. Mother and baby home. The lie starts in the name. It was no home and there were no babies there. No, they were taken, spirited away from the hospital nursery to where? The north, the south, England, or further afield. There were no borders when it came to the church. You couldn't bring a cow or a sheep or even a pound of butter over the border without custom documentation. Yet babies were moved en masse over the border and back with no questions asked. Today we would rightly call it trafficking. One by one, these girls went to give birth and returned ghosts of themselves. Took to the bed, talked to no one. We would hear them crying at night when they thought we were asleep. We could not reach them. I too joined them after giving birth. Disappeared, faded into that tiny cubicle for weeks, until the day I was leaving, when I was summoned to the convent by the Mother Superior, who told me to forget about my baby and gave me a set of rosary beads to set on my way. Thousands of women in the north, thousands from Derry alone, went through these institutions. How many children does that amount to? I see them and hear these women and their children, through meeting them, hearing their stories, reading their written words. Family trees have been rewritten to include babies who weren't known about or acknowledged. Human beings who were written out of their families' histories are being learned about by people coming forward. We are discovering women and their children from right back through the generations. They are still coming and will come. Ghosts no more.
Kevin. The beginning for Kevin and us learning about his early life began when Kevin was diagnosed with an unusual form of bowel cancer. It was suggested by his doctors that there could be a genetic link. We wanted to find out. Kevin's concerns were for his 3 beautiful children and if it might impact their lives. He wanted to find out, but didn't have any medical history or information. He'd been adopted at an early age, and all that transferred with him was his good looks and talent. He would want me to say that. So me and Kevin set out on a journey. Now, I know that's a bit of an overused expression at times, but it was an actual journey. Like, we went all over Ireland, across, up, down, everywhere around this country. Through a social worker, he made contact with his birth mother, who sent a letter requesting the information, but the response was a bit dramatic. I don't know this person, and I will throw myself in the lake if you make contact with me again. That was a bit of a shock. But for the sake of his children, he didn't want to give up, and we tried twice more. But as Kevin says, I'm like Jesus. I've been denied 3 times. Eventually, the social worker made headway and contacted Kevin's biological aunts and uncles, and we arranged to meet them in Newry in 2000. We were sitting at the table, and I said, Kevin, I'll go on up to the room. They only want to meet you, and that's all right, that's fine. They're here now. I just saw your uncle going past. And Kevin said, how the hell's name do you know what my uncle looks like? You've never even met him. And I says, because he's the image of our Brendan. Now, give us a kiss, and I'll go on up to the room. Good luck. His aunts and uncles came in, and he greeted them. Hello, I'm Kevin, and it's nice to meet you, and meet you, and meet you. And the eldest girl says, and it's nice to meet you too, Kevin. And the other one says, it's lovely to meet you. And, you know, I only heard about you last night. And Kevin says, what? Is that right? And then he turned and says, and it's nice to meet you too, to his uncle. Last night? You only heard about me last night? That's right, she said. They came over to my house last night and told me, and I'm still in shock if I'm being totally honest. I had no idea at all. I hadn't a clue. And the other sister says, no, she didn't. Because we did only just tell her last night. And I mean, look, we've known for years, but we've never said anything to anybody. Not even in the family. Well, it's a bit strange to me too, Kevin says. But tell us, do you want a drink? Oh, please, please. That'd be lovely. Right. Well, this is strange. Like, yous are my aunt and uncle. My aunts and uncle, and I've never met you before. But look, you see, before we start anything, I want to tell you straight up, I'm not here to cause any annoyance. I don't want to upset the woman, your sister. I have no intentions of doing that genuinely. I don't want to upset her. Oh, well, this is, we understand. Okay, we understand. And Kevin, do you know, I have a really brilliant life. I had brilliant parents, and I am a teacher, by the way. Got a degree and everything. Couldn't be happier. Lovely wife, the whole thing. And the eldest one says, imagine you're a teacher. Didn't expect that. Well done. And the other one went, that's lovely to hear. I didn't know what I was going to hear, to tell you the truth. At least that's good news, at least, she said. Mm. And then Kevin said, look, I'm going to cut straight on here. The reason I wanted to meet you is because I have a rare form of bowel cancer. And then we got the usual response, well, he did. Oh, that's terrible, oh my God, oh, you poor thing. After everything you've been through, and look, oh, this is awful. And Kevin's going, I know. But look, what I want to know, or need to know, is if it is a genetic condition within the family, your family. We have 3 children, and I want to make sure, for their sakes, that it isn't something I will pass on to them. I have no records, you see. I don't have any details, which is why I wanted to meet and find out. So, could you maybe go to your sister and find out for me? Response all round, oh, certainly. Oh, leave that by us. Can't we do that? Oh, we can do that. Oh, I'll find that out for you. And Kevin says, that would be great. We'll get in contact with you. Don't worry. We'll let you know, honestly. That would be really giving me peace of mind, and Carmel too. But are you sure? The eldest one says, I don't see there being any problem at all getting you that information. That's right. That'll be easy. It's the very least we can do. Well, how will we do it then? Kevin says, well, I go through you as a social worker. And the social worker says, yes, you can go through me. And we'll find out, and then we'll get in touch with the social worker here, and they'll get in contact with you, and then we will phone you and let you know, get you the information. And Kevin went, that'd be great. But are you sure? Are you sure? Because I really don't want to cause this person any annoyance. I just need to know for my wains. No, that's fine. That's an arrangement. Now, that's a plan. We'll go out and get in touch with the social worker to pass on the information. Kevin says, thank you. Really? Thank you for this. It means an awful lot. Now, tell us this. Would any of these like a wee bit of dinner? I booked a table. Oh, sure, that would be lovely. Great. Delighted. We'll have a better chat. We'll talk. They never got in contact again or sent any medical information to Kevin. Kevin died without any information. But it doesn't end there, because I have 2 sons, Brendan and Cormac. I have a daughter too, Mira. And because there's no medical records, when they go to a doctor, and your parents and they don't have any. We don't have any. But this year, Brendan is going to make me a granny. And because he is of that generation where they have to know the sex, have to know everything about this baby, it's a male. So we really don't know if it's going to continue.
My mother's story. My mother was called Mary Kathleen. She was 19, young, living her life and having fun. One day, while she was out with her friends, a car pulled up and told her to get in. She was taken to the police station. She was told that she was going to be taken to Marianville Mother and Baby Home in Newry. She was 6 months pregnant. Unknown to her, her mother had talked to the parish priest, and they had decided to send her to Newry to have her baby. On arrival to Marianville, she would have been taken to a large room at the back of the nuns' convent. Mother Superior would be sitting behind her oval mahogany table and would have asked my mother a lot of questions. She told her she was to be called Kathleen. She was then taken to Marianville, where she would spend a year of her life. While she was there, she would have had a lot of jobs to do, scrubbing floors, cleaning windows, and doing laundry. Knitting was a favourite, which she was really good at when she was older. I was born in Daisy Hill Hospital 3 months later. I was brought back to Marianville with my mother, where I spent 9 months. I would have been looked after by my mother. She would have had other duties, washing, cleaning, and whatever the nuns told her to do. When I was a few days old, my granny and aunt came to visit my mother. They were brought into a small room where my mother was in bed. I was there as well. They were told not to lift me, and they were not told who I was. A day in Marianville started at 6 for Mass, then breakfast. The girls had to attend their babies and then went to work in the laundry. When the time came for me to be fostered, my mother was asked to get me ready to take me to the black car, where 3 other babies were going as well. The mothers had to watch as the car drove off with their babies in them. I found my mother 26 years later. It was very emotional to see her after all those years. We talked a lot and we got on really well. It took a while, but I got to know her and I found out that I was like her in some ways. It was really nice for me. I have returned to Marianville quite a number of times. I have walked through the building in 2021. The building has now been demolished, and it had been demolished in December 2022. The chapel tiles are still there. The convent floor tiles, the 2 trees, the graveyard, and the steps leading towards the grotto where it used to be. Sometimes when I stand on the chapel tiles, I can imagine what it was like. Morning Mass, nuns walking about, stained glass windows, the priest on the altar, and the mothers going to and from the chapel. The red doors at the back leading to the gallery led out to the back where the girls lived. It is a haunting place, and I like to go back in time with my mother there. Sadly, my 2 mothers has passed away, my adopted mother and my birth mother. I have had lovely times with both of them, and I will always have them in my heart forever.
My mummy. My mother was pregnant with me when she returned home from London with my 2 brothers, Jack and Seamus. My granddad was ill with cancer and my father didn't come home with her. Eventually they separated. Mommy spent her life looking after the 3 of us. She spoiled us and gave us a happy childhood. Although money wasn't plentiful, we had all we needed. She often took us to the Midland Cinema, which was a great treat. Mother was a movie buff, which rubbed off on us. She would name lesser known stars and would point out their names. Cedric Gibbons and Douglas Shearer, who were sound and art directors on the majority of MGM musicals. These were her favourites. I brought my daughter Deborah up to appreciate musicals. She has been trying to instill this on our 14-year-old granddaughter, but to no avail. The young of today are lost. My mother was a special lady who was always smiling. She never touched alcohol, but we used to say she got drunk on Club Orange. As soon as she had a glass, she was laughing. Regarding the non-alcohol, that's a trait that didn't rub off on us. Thank you, Mammy, for being there for us.
Forever Autumn. The song playing on the radio caught my attention as I drank my coffee one morning. I turned the volume up to hear the haunting tune of Forever Autumn, and my mind went back 44 years ago when I first heard it playing on the car radio. I was travelling to a place called Maireann in the Armagh Road, where I would stay until I had my baby. It was a strange, silent place, a place of nuns, prayers, expectant mothers knitting and crocheting garments for our unborn children. The well-polished corridors gleamed in the autumn sunshine. Forbidding statues of saints and other holy people hung on the corridor walls, looking down on the expectant mothers as they scrubbed and polished the floors until they shone. I stayed there until it was time to go to hospital to have my baby. I thought this would be a more joyful time in the maternity ward, but no. The nurses and midwives were silent as I pushed my son into the world, and afterwards I was put in a private room. No visitors, no one spoke to me, except the tea lady, who whispered, "Are you okay, love?" I later learned that the staff were instructed not to speak to us. My baby was put in the nursery, and I was instructed not to go there. I would often sneak down to look at my beautiful boy, who lay second up from the window, his small wristband reading Baby O'Doherty. I began to realise that this was what society wanted for unmarried mothers at this time. But still, I considered myself one of the lucky ones, as I eventually got my baby back, and I would often say a silent prayer for those who weren't so lucky. I went home alone without my boy. I thought of little else but him as the weeks went by, until one day my mother told me he was coming home. There was great excitement. The pram was ready in the living room corner with the most beautiful blue and white blankets, bottles, food, nappies, all neatly arranged on the table. When he arrived, I thought my heart would burst with happiness. I lifted him out and couldn't take my eyes off him. It had all been worth it. Nothing else mattered. Life went by living at home. My mother and me didn't always agree on the rearing of my son. We argued, there were tears and fallings out, but we always made up. There was also a lot of laughter. My mother loved her grandson, and he loved her. We often laughed at my reaction to the private christening the church said we had to have, as I wasn't married. I wasn't pleased either. Thankfully, these rules do not apply to unmarried parents today. When my son was 14, he said he wanted to visit his father, who lived miles away. I told him his granny lived nearby, much to his delight. I remember him pulling on his coat, saying, "Okay, I'll go and visit her now." My mother heard us and came into the hallway. "Jesus, Mary and Joseph," she said, "you can't turn up on the woman's doorstep. What if you give her a heart attack?" We laughed, and then it was up to me to ring the other granny. Hands shaking, I rang her number to find she was overjoyed, and we met her the next day. She told us her cousin lived at the end of our street, and she would often visit there to watch her grandson playing tennis in the street. She already knew him, and she already loved him. She proudly introduced him to her family and friends. She brought so much happiness to his life. Two of the strongest women I have ever known, the two grannies. I often think of my own mother and me. My beautiful mother, how I love her, miss her, and thank her for always being there for my son when times got tough for me. I often visit my time all those years ago in Uri in my mind. I think I visited for a strange kind of comfort, as it was, after all, the birthplace of my son. Just me and him, so close but yet so far away, back then in Daisy Hill Hospital.